Hello and welcome to the Histro-Tea podcast, the podcast with lots of history and, of course,
Lots of tea.
right, David.
All right, Ali.
Long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been quite some time.
It has.
It's almost as if the lifting of the lockdown has meant we're very busy and we haven't had much time to do this.
Yeah, it's definitely changed the work schedule somewhat because now I'm back at work and working weird hours.
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of tie a day down that we can do this together. So,
But we're here.
We are
made
here.
it.
We're back.
We managed to find a weekend that was totally unplanned.
yeah, we are going to fix this. We are going to try and get back to more regular stuff. But at the moment, it's all a bit chaotic. So I think
A little bit chaotic is an understatement.
yes. So we are kind of just managed to find some time. So we're going to try and do some shorter episodes.
Yeah, we could call them shorts, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Where we're just going to look at
Histro-Tea shorts.
history, bite-sized.
The sub
histories.
40-minute mark as opposed to the hour and a half
Yeah,
that we're used to.
exactly. Just to get some content out, just so we can keep making stuff. But yeah, it's just a bit much. But we are planning to get a work schedule sorted soon and stick to it once again. But at the moment, because everything's up in the air and it's all a bit weird and wobbly, we're just going to try and make stuff when and if we can. So we're going to try and do some stuff now for you. And yeah, do smaller things, makes it easier. Hopefully still as entertaining. But yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they will be entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah. So that's our little update.
Update for those
guns.
regular listeners of all 8 of you.
Yeah, I think to be fair, there's 18 plays on our last one.
Oh,
Look at us.
Yeah.
No,
2 of those were our mums.
But if there are any people wondering why this one isn't Guns Part 2, that's because we're trying to get...
Oh yeah, we're going to get a guest star, someone who
Mm.
knows a lot about guns, to come and help chat to us about it.
But that will be in the future at some point, not sure when, hopefully when the actual lockdown, proper lockdown's like lifted and there's no restrictions. We also need to invest in
A second mic.
second mic
Yeah.
minimum. Because at the moment, our current setup is just us two sharing a mic, and we're basically a nose width away from each other.
Yeah, like
Talking into the same mic. It works for now, but we definitely need to get that sorted.
yeah, to make it easier, and especially if you want to bring on guests.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Otherwise,
the guest star's going to want my breath in
No,
his face.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, we're good friends, so, you
Yeah.
can deal with it. You can deal with my disgusting halitosis. But yeah,
Yes,
that's the update.
that's the update.
And I don't know what have you decided we're going to do today?
So, because we're just doing small things, I wanted to talk about just not even like entire battle. This is just a thing that happened in a battle, and that thing is the charge of the Light Brigade.
Right, now immediately I'm just thinking of like some Destiny, like some game. It sounds like a game.
It does.
It sounds like a mission in a game.
Yeah.
Or like a DLC or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like charge of the Light Brigade. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it does. It sounds like sort of like a chapter in a book or a DLC for a game like Destiny or something.
So what is the charge of the Light Brigade?
So the charge of the Light Brigade is when the Light Brigade charged at the Battle of Balaclava.
Great, right, end of podcast.
And the podcast done.
See you in a bit.
Told you these are going to be shorts. So yeah, it was just a military action taken during the Battle of Balaclava, which is a battle that happens in 1854 and it's part of a much wider war called the Crimean War.
I've heard of that.
Have you?
I've heard of the Crimean War.
There we
I
go.
don't know what it was,
So
or when it was,
to
or
keep
who was involved,
to keep
or
it,
any details really.
You just know the name.
I've just heard it
Yeah.
once, probably
yeah,
by you.
it probably was me because I quite like it. Like as much as one can like a war, I quite like it.
Mm.
There's loads of cool shit that happens in it. There's really good accounting of it. It was actually one of the first wars to be photographed. And one of the first wars to have essentially live correspondence because of the what's the thing? Telegraph. So when you could tappy tap, yeah, beep, 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 beep. They could do that. So you could now actually, like, as things are happening, find out what's going on.
Oh, no way.
It's why later, like, they start bringing in really strict, like, censorship rules about what you can record and broadcast and tell the people at home about wars.
I'm sure there was.
And censor. Well, that's it, like, because the Crimean War started off like good.
We don't want to publicise the
atrocities, the fact that all our men are dying of sickness, all the stupid mistakes we're making. Yeah, so that kind of started, for the British at least, from the Crimean War. Because, yeah, basically beforehand, they just got, like, letters that they could sort of intercept and sort of make sure anyone knows. And it was all happening in real time. So whilst the public was really for it at first, in fact, that's kind of why it started to a degree, because of public demand. They then became very, like, anti it because they realised how awful war is for the first time ever. And that's why you get, like, World War I and stuff, where they're like, you can send letters home, but we're going to have to read them all. So don't put anything naughty in there because we're going to know. And
no dick pics, all right?
No dick pics.
No unsolicited dick pics.
Unsolicited dick sketches, please. Because we're going to have to look through those and we'll know who you are.
Or if we're receiving any from your wife, we'll happily take them and have a look.
But yeah, so this is just a cool war in general, but we digress. So the charge of the Light Brigade.
Right, so who's in... Right.
Who's involved?
Yeah, who's involved in the whole...
So,
the Crimean War and all that sort of stuff first.
It is...
Quick debrief.
The British, the French, their allies.
Oh, for once.
Which I don't necessarily agree with, but it happened. I joke, I jest. We've listened back to our previous podcasts and I seem to always be bashing the French, so it's become a thing now. And the Turks, or the Turkish, or the Ottoman Empire, and whatever you want to call them at the time, they were also our allies. And we were fighting the Russians. Scary old Russians.
With their fluffy hats.
With their big fluffy hats and their big scary grey coats and all sorts of stuff. So that's who we're fighting. We're fighting because of loads of different reasons, which, again, if we do, we'll come back and do a much larger episode on the whole thing, I think, and we can explain those reasons. But for now, we have found ourselves at the Battle of Balaclava, which is basically where the British had all their ships coming in, bringing all their supplies and stuff. And we were laying siege to a city called Sevastopol, which was a Russian city. And if the Russians took this bay from us, we were fucked. That would have been the end of the war.
So is that like our, main...
Yeah, it was our main port. It was our main sort of... It was like our base.
Fed the country.
It fed the army.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is all in the Crimea. So this is all in, like...
I assume that's where we got all of our, like, silks and stuff imported and nice spices and probably, like, some of that sort of shit as well.
No. This is just military.
Just military stuff.
Yeah, yeah. We have no presence in this area. We are invading.
Right.
To take the city of Sevastopol because we don't want the Russians getting access to the Black Sea and the Aegean Seas, and they were attacking our mates, the Ottomans, and we were like, well, none of that, please. So, yeah, so this is us basically helping the Ottoman Empire out, stopping the Russians taking their shit, which could be seen as like, oh, that's really good of us, but actually it was mainly because we were scared that if they lost against the Russians, and the Russians were going to compete with us on the wider seas, the Mediterranean seas and stuff. So we were like, fuck that. And popular demand because people were like gagging for it, like back home.
I just want to fight.
We just want a good war. We should probably be doing something. But yeah. So that's kind of why we're here, to try and stop them, and that's why we're trying to take the city of Sevastopol to stop them being able to put ships out and things like that. Because it was a big like naval town for the Russians, and so a Bay of Balaclava is kind of just off that essentially, and it's where we're getting all of our ships landing, all our new troops coming in. All of our supplies, all that sort of stuff. So if the Russians took that from us, then anyone that was sieging the city would have been isolated without supplies and without backup. And the campaign probably would have been done and over with. So you think we'd have it really well defended? We do not. That's partly because...
There's just one guy with a stick.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like the numbers are pretty abysmal considering how important this place was. In fact, the only infantry we had at ready was a single brigade of men. And they did a bloody stellar job, but that's a different story for a different mini podcast. But basically, we had a bunch of like cannons up on a hillside, like away from just in front of Balaclava, which was there to sort of stop the Russians. and the Russians took them all. And then they started taking the cannons that were up there and were like, well, these look perfectly good, we'll nick them. And they went to go and like take them back. Now Raglan, who was the general of the British Army at the time, was up on a big hill and he could see the whole thing happening. He's like, those bastard Russians are nicking our cannons and I want them back.
Coming over here.
Nicking
our cannons.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, we were over there. But yes, essentially. And they were, and from up there, he was like, okay, I can see what they're doing. I'll tell the Light Brigade, who are down there in the valley.
I still can't take that name seriously.
I'll tell them to go and get those cannons back. Now, the problem occurs with the fact that he can see the cannons getting nicked from up on his lofty heights. Down in the valley, they can't see those cannons. The only cannons they can see are the ones that the Russians have brought along at the end of the valley, sort of stationed and ready to like use to stop any sort of British advance against their own armies. So when he sends down Nolan to go and tell Cardigan, who was the head of the Light Brigade, he kind of failed his way up. He wasn't a particularly competent man. He was noted to be incredibly thick, but very brave, which came in handy in this particular encounter because you're going to need to be brave. But yeah, so he tells him to go down there and tell him, right, your Light Brigade needs to go and get those cannons. And Cardigan's like, okay, cool. What cannons? And Nolan very helpfully just goes, there are your cannons. Go and get them. Pointing towards the ones at the end of the valley. So Cardigan's like, well, that seems like a dumb idea. There's like cannons at the end. There's cannons on the valley to our left. And also cannons on the right of that valley as well, which were actually the cannons that the Russians were nicking, I think. And he's like, so you want us to go down there? And he's like, right, well, we got any infantry coming up with us? He's like, I don't fucking know. I've been told you go and get those cannons. I'm like, well, we can charge the cannons, but if we get there, there's no way we're bringing them back. We need some infantry. But it's like, I told you, I don't give a fuck. You need to go get those cannons, because that's what Raglan said. And then the Heavy Brigade...
don't shoot the messenger here.
Exactly.
Just
go and get the fucking cannons. And Cardigan's like, I don't think it's a good idea. But fuck it, that's what I've been told. And then the leader of the Heavy Brigade, so the Heavy Cavalry, was Lucan, who was Cardigan's brother-in-law. They weren't two best of friends. And Lucan was like, look, mate, Raglan said it, we do it. That's how it works. You go up there, we'll come up behind you as well to give you some support.
Yeah, a few hundred meters behind you, just in case.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We'll come up, we'll be behind you. Yeah, we'll back you up, sure.
So he's like, crack on. And Cardigan's like, fuck, okay, lads, this is what we do. We've, and part of the reason they did it is because the Light Brigade had been kept on a really short leash, like the whole campaign, because they were the eyes and ears of the army. So if anything happened to them, the whole army would have been pretty much blind, which is not great. So Raglan had like just held them back all the time, and these guys were gagging for a bit of action anyway. And people started taking the piss out of them, saying like, "Yeah, you kind of not like kind of participating.
You ain't all that, are you? You got your participation award."
Yeah, exactly. Like we've been doing the fighting, you've just been standing around looking pretty, and so they were kind of ready to give it a go. And so he gets his Light Brigade together, and he lights a cigar because he's a badass.
Of course.
Yeah. And he's like, right, I'm going to light this cigar. Just have a cigar before we go in there. And just chill the fuck out. It'd be cool. But apparently just like kept on smoking it. It was like he just couldn't bring himself to put it down. So kept it on. And he starts bringing the Light Brigade into that valley, which would later be called the Valley of Death. Spoilers, It don't go well. So the Light Brigade start trotting in good order. Like they're not charging. Like they're just sort of cantering towards the enemy because they need to stay in good formation. And the Russians fire their guns off at them, hit a few people, hit a few of the Heavy Brigade. In fact, Lucan gets injured along with some other officers in his brigade. And it's at this point that no doubt Raglan up on the hill went, fuck, what they're doing, because they're clearly going for the wrong guns. And Nolan, who had run down and given the order after being a massive dick about it, has gone, shit, they're going for the wrong guns. And so as the Light Brigade start going deeper and deeper into the valley and getting shot at, Nolan charges ahead of the Light Brigade, ahead of Cardigan, which is a big no-no, because that's like proper like throwing some shade, like you're taking charge, how dare you. And he like whizzes around, starts waving his sword and is about to say something, probably along the lines of, "Whoops, guys, I fucked up. Sorry, bad info. We shouldn't be going this way." But he never got to say it because a shell went off, exploded, and shredded him to pieces.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And apparently he screamed quite loudly.
Oh, I was going to ask, was it a quick death? But clearly not.
No. Well, they have... So at this point, like, ammunition-wise, you've got, like, the solid cannonballs. You've also got grape shot, which is like a giant shotgun, essentially. And you've also got exploding canisters, which essentially are timed cannonballs, which go for the end, they blow up in the air and rain shrapnel down. And
wow.
I think it's one of those that got him. Cardigan is ahead of his men by a fair few paces, and he's like fuming now. He's like, "You knobhead, how dare you fucking do that?" Apparently that's all, like, when they came and asked him afterwards, like, apparently they came back and he's like, "Dude, how is everything? Like, you okay?" And he's like, "That fucking Nolan screamed like a goddamn girl when he died. What an absolute dickhead." And apparently he was just raging that he had dared ride ahead of him and, like, try and order his men. There's different times. So they start charging down towards the cannons, and obviously hell breaks loose. Cannons are flying off from the left, right, from the front. People are getting cut down in droves, and Cardigan is, like, charging ahead of his men, like, as a single bloke now at this point, just, like, way ahead of his light brigade. The heavy brigade at this point, realizing the mistake, decide to call it off, and Lucan tells his men to stop. Like, even I know he was injured as well, so that probably came into it a bit.
Please take me back.
Yeah.
Please carry me back.
So he tells them to stop.
Medic.
And upon being asked afterwards, like, "Why did you not back up your, like, light brigade?" He was like, "Well, no, I was there to cover their retreat. That's what I was going to do. I was staying here to make sure that I could clear their retreat."
Had the rest of the cigar to smoke.
No, Cardigan's the guy with the cigar.
Oh, he's already dead.
Yeah, and he's already charging in.
I picked up his cigar then.
Yeah, so at this point, Cardigan's charging in with a cigar in his mouth. Light Brigade are charging in after their commander-in-chief, as it were. Nolan screamed like a girl and died, and Lucan has been shot and is now, like, telling his heavy brigade not to go in there because it's clearly a fucking stupid idea. The French, they see what's going on, and they go, "Oh, fuck." And they actually charge up the left side of the valley towards the left guns because they could get there quickly. And they basically attack those gun positions to try and alleviate some of the damage. But that doesn't happen until basically right at the end of the charge. So what it probably did save some lives on the retreat, but anyway. So Cardigan, Light Brigade, they've gone charging down the valley. There was about 600 lads that went in there. By the time they get to the cannons, it's estimated that there's only around 50 to 75 fighting men left.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And they're probably already a bit
either injured or
shaken up.
And so they go charging headlong into the Russian lines. And this is quite indicative of a lot of the combats and a lot of the battles that happened at the Crimea, is that the Russians just cannot believe what the fuck they're watching. Because they're like, "Are you joking? Are you fucking mad? Like, why would they do that?" So the few fighting men that get there, including Cardigan, smash into the Russian sort of artillery and soldiers there, start hacking and slashing as best they can away.
How many of the Russians are there?
There are, I don't know off the top of my head, but there are many more. Typically, the Russians were outnumbered the British like 2-1 to a degree. Like there was thousands of Russians rather than the hundreds of the British and French and whatnot. Like for instance,
who was arguably the better fighter?
The British. We were more disciplined. So the Russians' armies at the time were made up mainly of conscripts, and they were mainly just kept drunk and pointed in a direction.
I love that. It's such different times, isn't it?
Yeah, so we were like professional soldiers. We've been disciplined, drilled, and that sort of stuff, which is why these guys, despite looking at these guns and knowing they're all going to fucking die, did their job and did it well, because they'd just been drilled into them. Like the Thin Red Line, which happens just before this in this same battle, is about, again, it was probably about 100, 200 infantrymen against 400 Russian cavalrymen, and the British came out on top.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Light Brigade's gone charging in. Like I said, there's only about 50 to 75 of the lads left. Cardigan's gone cutting in by himself before the rest of them catch up. By the time they hit, he then he pulls out and starts riding back because he's done his job now. His job was to lead them there, he doesn't need to carry on scrapping and fighting. He's done his bit.
I'll meet you at the pub later.
Yeah, essentially. So in his head, he's done his job. So he starts riding back whilst the rest of the few men that have survived carry on fighting and they manage to push the Russians off the guns and they manage to fight back, but there's just nothing they can do. There's like a handful of them against all these infantry. And once the Russians go over the shock, they obviously start fighting back and pushing back, and they realize that the battle's lost. So the Light Brigade run back round and charge back down the valley, whereupon they get, you guessed it, shot in the rear.
Shot from behind,
shot in the side.
At that point, you just kind of go, I might as well just stay here and give it my all, really.
Yeah. So they get back, and like I said, when Carden gets back, he gets addressed by like one of the officers saying like, shit, you all right, mate? And he's like, that fucking Nolan charged in front of me, bloody bastard, screamed like a goddamn girl when he died. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that these days, but at the time that would have been considered quite an insult. So he was just
all about honor, isn't it?
Yeah, so he was just ticked off about that. But like, not about what's just happened. That's just part and parcel. He's just pissed off that that Nolan guy tried to take command. And then obviously
there's a chain of command, and you'd be quite proud. And I can imagine our armies would be quite. That's built in with you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone else tried to take that off you, like, you're dead, mate.
Exactly.
If you're not dead now, you'll be dead
when I get back. Yeah. But, you can understand why Nolan did it, because he was trying to stop them from all charging into these fucking guns and getting murdered. He just failed to do so because he got murdered. He got killed before he could do anything about it. But yeah, so they get back as, I think there was basically like two, what do you call them? Not brigades, because they were all the brigade. But there's basically two regiments that made up of it. And I think one of them, the Light Dragoons, I believe it was the Light Dragoons, only 8 men came back.
8? Out of how many?
I don't know off the top of my head. But if you imagine there was 2,
there was probably
maybe about 300.
2.
Yeah, so it was a fucking devastating for the British Army and devastating for the Light Brigade. And
did it have any impact on the overall?
No, nothing. So apart from scaring the shit out of the Russians and just proving to them.
A small hairline fracture in a
exactly.
In a
it really didn't make any difference whatsoever. But you cannot underestimate the bravery it must have took to do it.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I know, right? Fuck that. But that kind of basically was that
like, storming the beaches of like Normandy and stuff, like in that vein, like you're just like
overwhelming firepower.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, absolutely mad. But yeah, so they get back, and that was kind of the last action of the battle. The Russians had kind of had enough after being pushed back by a handful of British infantrymen, having their heads smashed in. Like their cavalry, a lot of it got smashed in by the heavy cavalry before this charge. And then with the Light Brigade doing what they did, and the French now coming up on the sort of side of the valley, the Russians kind of cut their losses and take the cannons and fuck off and call it a day. So, the battle was won pyrrhically. A lot of people did die.
Just a few.
But yeah, it was fucking just an absolute mad one. And it all just came down to the fact that you didn't have telephones and shit. They couldn't communicate quickly. Like, it was all down to like the general up there. It would have taken 10, 20 minutes to get the guy to come down there, not knowing what people can see. Because obviously to Raglan, like, go and get the guns that we're stealing makes sense because he can see them Russians stealing the guns. But to them down there, all they get is go and get the guns.
Go get the guns.
Yeah, that they're stealing.
Trust me, it's fine.
Yeah, and
is it fine?
Yeah, exactly. And so the wording was really important, and that failed miserably. But it's just like a testament to like just how stupidly brave they were. Oh, I tell you what, we'll finish this.
The fact that they're gagging for well,
that's the thing.
It's like, yeah, well, I want to get up there.
But they got back, and they'd failed to take the guns, obviously. And Cardigan and the other men that got back were like, should we go and have another go?
What?
Literally, they were like, look, we're sorry, we didn't get the guns. Do you want us to go back? And they were like, whoa, no. Fuck no. By that point, Raglan seen
all your friends are dead. You've seen them, blown to pieces.
Yeah.
Don't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to.
Yeah, but we didn't do the job properly. And obviously by that point, Raglan has obviously sent orders down to saying, like, make sure you get whatever's left to, like, stop doing that. So they didn't go back in. But some of the guys that did the charge, they got captured by the Russians at the other end. And one of them, like a Russian officer, spoke a bit of English. And he went up to one of the soldiers and he was just like, what the fuck did they give you to drink to do that? And apparently the British lad replies with something along the lines of, if we'd even sniffed a bottle, you wouldn't fucking be here right now. If we'd even sniffed a bottle, we would have taken all of fucking Ukraine by now, kind of thing. And I was just like, that is some proper metal balls right there. That is just mad shit. Absolutely mad.
Just gagging for a drink. I love it.
Yeah, he's just like, look, mate, if we were drunk, you'd be done. We would have fucking done the lot of you. We're sober as judges, mate. But yeah, so that's the charge of the Light Brigade. And like, you know, it's a big deal. It's stuff like that that obviously turned the sentiment of the war against being there. Because,
but I guess as like, if I was a Russian and I saw that, I'll be telling all my mates like, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
like we wiped out 90% of them,
and they kept on coming.
They kept coming.
Yeah,
like you'd be shitting your pants.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, so.
And they were taking out our men by like, and we were vastly outnumbering them, yet they were still coming and they were still kicking the shit out of us a little bit. Obviously,
yeah.
Overall, they didn't win, but you know,
yeah,
you'd be like, yeah, no, fuck that.
I mean, sod it.
Would that like spread through the army a little bit and be like, create a bit of?
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the thing, like most of the battles were won because of that. Because we were just,
I guess if you just have
genuinely
that innate fear, if you've been told like, these guys are fucking...
Genuinely, mate, we were so inept. We had fucked up supplies. We had lost most of our army on the way there to like typhoid and like diseases because we didn't know how to deal with that. We failed to get the lads winter clothing, so a lot of them kept on like being fucking killed and dying in the winter and shit.
Wow.
Like we couldn't give them food. Like the horses were dying because they couldn't get the fucking horse food for the horses. But like shit, like so. What a really good example of this sort of shit was like a bunch of like supplies and food and shit was just thrown in the sea because they weren't on the register. They weren't on the thing. Like there'll be like a clerical error, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're not meant to have that," and the guys just fucking threw it into the ocean. They didn't bother just like handing it over. Like there you fucking go. Like lots of weird.
Like we'll take this and we'll put it somewhere.
Yeah. Just until we get permission
case,
or whatever. Yeah, no. So there's lots of weird stuff going on like that, and it's just a lot of ineptitude. So every time the British met, like even the first battle of the whole war, when it was Battle of Alma, we basically just sent our men up a hill towards a stationary gun position of the Russians, but we just kept on going, even though we like lost so many men, and it just scared the shit out of the Russians. And so the other thing that happened at the Battle of Balaclava was the Thin Red Line. Like I said, it was a handful of bloody Highlanders versus like 400 Russian cavalry. And the way they won was because the Russian cavalry was charging them, and then they stopped because they were like, shit, there's a trap. There's like literally just a handful of lads there stopping us from taking over the Bay of Balaclava, like the most important point of the British line. They must have like people hiding somewhere in the ridges and shit. We fucking didn't. But because
it was just those 4 lads.
Yeah, because they stopped and lost the momentum, they were like, shit, fuck. And then we basically shot them to shit. And then we tried to charge them with our own bayonets. Which didn't happen because the commander was like, don't be fucking daft, you daft bastards. But the Russians...
I want to fight!
Yeah, but the Russians got so scared and were so shocked by the counterattack that they just had to flee. Same with the heavy brigade charge earlier in the battle I alluded to earlier. There was a guy called Captain Scarlet, and he was charging against the Russian cavalry. And again, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it was only a handful of British cavalry against what was described by the newspapers as a sea of grey, which was the sort of colour of the Russian coats. And basically, Captain Scarlet got his men whilst the Russians were charging at him. And you don't want to ever meet a charge stationary because it just fucking sucks. It just smashes you. You want to be charging into them as well. But he spent so long making sure that they were parade ready, essentially. So he just sat there and he just got the British and he's like, no, you're slightly too far ahead. No, get back in formation. And he was just getting them as in a perfect line for, because again, all they've been practicing up to this point, they've been a big gap between when we're fighting like the French and Napoleon to now. So they've just been practicing like parade stuff. And he did all this sort of stuff, and the Russians were charging at him, and the Russian cavalry literally stopped charging because they're like, they're not moving. They're just they're acting so fucking ballsy.
Weird.
Yeah. And so they were like, there must be something hidden or a trap or something. They were second guessing it. And as soon as the Russians stopped, he then saw the opportunity as like fucking charge, and he charged into them. Because I can imagine,
if the Russians stop suddenly, not everyone's going to be in formation. Everyone's going to be a bit forward or backwards, or there's going to be like
and they're trying to
a pile up at the back, and people are going to have to create space and move backwards and do all that. So
they're trying to suss out what the British are doing. As soon as they stop, the British then charge and then hit the Russians in a stationary position and smash into them. And it was described as a drop of blood in a sea of grey because of the red coats of the British and the grey coats of the Russians, and we smashed them back at that point.
So that was just pure luck then.
Luck, some people call it audacity, some people call it just incompetence, other people call it, everything I see indicates that the British were acting in such a weird,
odd manner
that's that the Russians kept on second guessing and giving up their advantages. But also the British soldier
So arguably you could say our incompetence saved us a bit.
To a degree, yeah. It's not like the British soldiers at the time was super disciplined. And that's where all that drilling came in and why they were doing it and stuff. And they were just incredibly fighting men. Like they just did not stop. And that really did help. Whilst the Russians, like I said, mainly had armies made up of conscripts. Because at this point, the Russians were still operating in a very feudal manner. So if you lived in Russia, you worked the land and you were owned to a degree by the landowner. So they were operating in a very almost medieval manner still. And we're in the 1800s at this point. So these guys had no real connection to why they're fighting. They had no real sort of like identity or love of like the nation as a whole. They were just told they had to do this. And so when it came to actual fighting, they were very quick to rout and very quick to break off. And they weren't, the officers would have been disciplined and whatnot, but trying to keep you men sort of standing there when everything's going south is just not good. Not good for the Russians. But so that's the Charge of the Light Brigade. There's a really cool poem about it. I want to say it's by Tennessee Williams, but I don't think that's right.
I might get it printed and put it on my wall in my bathroom.
Yeah. I'll read it to you. We'll finish the podcast off with me reading a rendition of
I Want a Beat poem.
Oh, no, it's right. By Alfred Lord Tennyson. Are we ready?
Yeah. I'm going to give it to you, but there we go.
Ooh. I get the mic. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death, rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, was there many a dismayed? No, though the soldier knew someone had blundered. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them. Cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabres bare, flashed as they turned in the air, sabring the gunners there, charging an army, while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right thro' the line they broke, Cossack and Russian reeled from the sabre stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, while the horse and hero fell. They that had thought so well came thro' the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honour the charge they made, honour the Light Brigade, noble 600. There you go.
So I've got this image of him writing that.
But that's the main bit.
Oh, does it carry on?
It does carry on, but
it's long, man.
Yeah, there's like oh no, is that just another one? That's the Charge of the Bucket Brigade.
No, we're not on that.
We're just on the Light Brigade.
Come on.
Soz pal. Take it back.
I've just got this image of him writing that from a hillside as he's watching all this shit going down.
The thing is, people actually came over and watched the battles. It was like a touristy
if you
thing.
could do that
it was a touristy
now.
thing.
Through like through Thomas Cook.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, do you want to can we just go watch a war? Like, yeah, we'll give you the war pass.
Yeah.
We'll ship you over somewhere and you could
They sat on the hill with their picnic blankets and all sorts, and they would watch.
with their red wine and cheeses.
Yeah. I shit you not. they would do that. It was a thing.
Oh God. I love it, but it's weird at the same time, isn't it?
It's fucking weird. Like watching sport's one thing, but watching people die,
but to be fair, back then you must see people die all the time. Like,
absolutely,
like there must be just death in the streets. Like, Timmy's dead. He ate
life was a lot cheaper back then. It's fair to say, and it was a much bigger part of it. But so okay, I guess, but I still find it weird. Like,
it is. Well, yeah, weird. Weird is an understatement for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to feel about that. Can you imagine the noises you do?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be quite far away, but you still hear all the cannons shooting and all that.
You'd still be able to feel all that. Like,
yeah.
600 men you'd be able to hear, definitely.
Yeah, probably.
Plus the 1,200 bloody, if they outnumber us 2 to 1.
Yeah, I think there's another really cool thing about the Crimea, I think I said it earlier, was that it was the first war to be photographed. I think there's a really good photograph of the Valley of Death after. There you go. So those.
There's a microphone in the way.
Sorry. So those are all the cannonballs left over from the charge.
Oh, it is like it's not a very steep valley, but it's not one that I'd want to be in. Oh God.
And that's only like obviously a small part of it, but that's a lot of fucking cannonballs.
Mm.
Like, it looks like someone spilled a bag of Maltesers.
That's what it does look like. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, the picture's not very high fidelity, but you can just make out some of the ones on the side of the hills and that.
Mm.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm all right.
Yeah. Mad shit.
But yeah, there we go. That was one of the shorts.
I feel like that got a bit bleak.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was going to say, you didn't make many jokes.
Well, it's very quick, isn't it?
It's quick.
We're trying to get to the heart and to the potatoes.
The potatoes.
The potatoes of it all. And normally we'd have a lot of build up, introduce characters, I'd make some jokes, but we're trying to be quick about this.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
I think it's still quite a long episode. I don't know how long it is. What's the timestamp on?
Let's have a look.
I
can't see. We're both blind as bats.
I don't have my glasses.
Hang on. What time does your timer say for the chicken?
Yeah, we're making a chicken.
Yeah, we gave ourselves the amount of time.
No, it's like 40 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, so we've basically done a regular episode.
Yeah, well, this is fine. Well, it's half the length of a normal one, so I'm fine with that. That's still a short.
Short in our books. Cool. Well, we'll bring it to an end there. Hope you guys enjoy it. And we'll do another one soon. So catch you guys in a bit.
Yep. See you in a bit. Bye.
Bye.